I told you it would not take long. I told you it wouldn't. Already, the response to this cross-party negotiations on how do we solve the problems of Brexit, well, we've had Nigel Farage come out and saying, see, they're trying to sell out Brexit. John Redwood has come out also in condemnation of this and saying, how dare Gove hold these conversations in private. Meanwhile, David Frost, we'll be getting to his comments later, has also had some interesting comments. However, I want to sort of float another theory to you before we get on to David Frost and his bizarre claims. A lot of people have asked, why Michael Gove? Like, bear in mind, he is sort of the biggest name at the feast in this particular situation. And you've got to wonder whether Michael Gove has been playing the long game here. Because for those of you who followed sort of, British politics, know full well Michael Gove wants to be PM. After the 2016 referendum, he went for David Cameron's job. And of course, what happened? Boris completely stabbed him in the back. And thus, he didn't run. In fact, nor did he run to replace Theresa May. He didn't run to replace Boris Johnson. So there's been a lot of interesting people who know that Gove has ambitions. So why would this person who has such ambitions be flirting with something which has shown in the past to completely take out, shall we say, previous prime ministers? Well, we'll get to my little theory in a bit. But first of all, before we do that, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, do remember to ring the bell as well. Also, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and a one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, buy me coffee. And of course, there is the YouTube thank you button. And of course, the Pony Club down below as well. So, Gove theory time. Why was he there? What's his purpose? And ultimately, could this be just a part of his ultimate plan to, well, ascend to the lofty heights of being prime minister? It might very well be. But before that, I want to cover the comments of David Frost, because David Frost comments about this sort of secret meeting are very, very revealing, but also go to show you just what an absolute failure most of these politicians who were meant to have been the biggest believers in Brexit have also proven to be the biggest failures when it came to Brexit as well. And there is no bigger failure than David Frost himself, the man who negotiated not only the Brexit withdrawal agreement, but also the Northern Ireland Protocol. And yet, here's a guy who's saying we should just brush these all aside because somehow that will be better. So let's get into some of his comments that he had to say. These were in response to the Daily Mail. So, in response to this secret cross-party meeting, David Frost had this to say. He said that this is just a further piece of evidence that many in our political and business establishment want to unravel the deals we did to exit the EU in 2020 and to stay shadowing the EU instead. So, as we've said before, David Frost is certainly part of the full free market fundamentalist part. None of those sort of people want to stay in the EU regulatory orbit. But as we've said before, we all know the future does lie in trying to build this green new, environmental economy that we're going to build. We've seen America is already doing it. There were talks just this last week about how the EU could become such a place and not have to rely on importing this technology from America. They're already making these moves. And now here's the UK on the outside. And if it wants to be any part of this, it will have to follow the EU rules on this. It does not have a choice. It is not a big enough economy to start saying these are the rules, we're going to make them, and everyone else has to follow them. That isn't how it works, because we're not a big enough economy to do that. So we will end up following EU rules, and as we all highly suspect, and as I said last time, I think doing alignment deals, following more EU regulations, I think is the direction we're going to end up going. And then, of course, we go, well, if we're following all these, why aren't we in the single market customs union? And once that happens, why aren't we having a seat at the table where all these decisions gets made? That's when, of course, eventually we end up, rejoining the EU fully. That is the path that we are on at the moment. Brexiteers can't seem to admit that, but that's because they've never had a plan post-Brexit. But anyway, he had this to say when trying to also explain the presence of such a high-profile Brexiteers at this conference. Because again, like I say, Michael Gove is the biggest name at the feast in terms of, so we say, top names for this. So he had this to say. So he said, that's why you see so many of those responsibles for Theresa May's failed backstop deal were there, and why I and those who actually, quote, delivered the Brexit agreements were not. This is so ridiculous on so many levels for this, because yeah, you had your chance at the batting cage. You swung and you missed. Many of our problems that we're seeing in Northern Ireland, the economy, are because of your awful Brexit deal. And of course, part of this secret conference was talking about how we could help fix some of these problems. And of course, it's been reported that Gove was very honest and open about some of these problems that Brexit has created. So this is what Frost had to say in regards to that. He said, Brexit doesn't need fixing. It needs this Conservative government elected with a huge mandate on a Brexit programme to fully and enthusiastically embrace its advantages instead of leaving the field to whoever those who never wanted it in the first place. I and millions of others want the government to get on with instead of raising taxes, deterring investment, and pushing public spending to its highest level for 70 years. Again, that's just sheer nonsense. Like I say, Frost was at the beating heart of all this. If you didn't deliver Brexit, and all these people who are like supremely pro-Brexity haven't delivered Brexit and delivered on again these opportunities. Again, they haven't delivered on the opportunities. Well, what are these opportunities you talk about? This is why they never go into detail. It's just, Brexit opportunities. Well, what are these opportunities? So that's David Frost. But now onto my little Gove conspiracy. So this comes up, I think, of when you've seen since 2016, since he lost and got betrayed by Boris in this regard, this comes up to an interesting situation, because out of all, shall we say, the big Brexiteer names, Gove is the only one not to have a bite at the apple. He's never stood up and been in charge of, like, Minister for Brexit negotiations. He never stood up to the new international trade role or anything to really do with Brexit. In fact, it's kind of interesting that Gove himself has kept away from anything to do with Brexit. Very interesting. And now you have this secret conference going on. And it's that makes you wonder now whether Gove has he had a Damascus moment? Has he seen the light and really gone, oh no, what have I done? Or, oh no, why did we allow so many idiots to try and steer this ship? It's entirely possible. that Gove has indeed had a come to the Damascus moment. And who knows, this may just be part of his eventual leadership run to go, hey, yeah, I'm a leading Brexiteer. I know Brexit isn't working. It's completely botched. I'm going to fix it. Could that be his pitch to the country, or maybe even the pitch to his fellow Conservatives when it comes time to, well, should we say, take the mantle away from Rishi Sunak? It's entirely possible, I believe, and I do think that Gove is planning something, and I think he has been playing the long game. Now, is he a fully convert? Is he um something going to say we're going to rejoin the EU? No. But what I think Gove it does at least acknowledge is the reality, the economic reality that we cannot escape the EU's orbit. That trade gravity is just inescapable, that we will always be trading mostly with our closest neighbors first, and that is the EU. And if we want that to continue to help our economy grow, then we have to lower these trade barriers, because we are seeing UK businesses being unable to trade into the EU, or just going, it's just too much money, we're not even going to bother, or trying to go for deals, contracts, sell their business into Europe, and they can't because Brexit has made them too uncompetitive, meaning it hurts the UK economy. And then, of course, you've got the reverse side of European businesses don't want to buy from Britain because of Brexit, because of the extra cost, because of the extra time. And not only that, but because of the rules, the EU Reform and Regulation Bill. If that goes through, that's going to cause even more problems for trade down the line. So, could Gove's eventual plan be to go, this is Brexit, but we're still going to be friends with Europe? You know, we're going to do these, these crafty deals. Gove could even sell them as, and not sell them as a betrayal. They're just going, oh no, we're just doing these because, it allows us to have better trade, being a global Britain partner. Like I say, we're being partners, we're being friendly with Europe. That's how Gove could indeed try to sell this, but will he be able to do it? I don't know, but it says a lot when you think about it that over the years, we've never really heard a lot from Michael Gove when it comes to Brexit. And the fact that if those comments are true, that Gove had been very open and honest about the damage that Brexit has done, then this does signal a very significant change in certainly the ideas and the turnaround of Brexit itself. Now, Gove isn't automatically going to become a rejoiner, but someone who I ultimately think will want to sort of push a very soft version of Brexit. And ultimately, I think that could be the direction that many of the Tory party goes in, potentially. So we'll have to see what comes of it. There hasn't been any other. Oh, pardon me. Whoa, whoa. Bless me. Like I say, there hasn't been any leaks about conversations or any audio, anything like that from this conference. But like I say, if we hear anything else that was talked about this, I will definitely be covering it on this channel because, like I say, I think this conference is very interesting. Very interesting when it comes to these types of talks. But as always, what do you think to my Gove conspiracy? Let me know what you think down below. I certainly think this could be a long game from Michael Gove to shine to say, allow him to elevate to those lofty heights. And remember, he was one of the big backers of Kimmy Badenoch when she ran to be prime minister. Could he, in the future, say, okay, Kemi, now you need to return the favor? Remember, Kemi is the new darling of the Conservative Party, or at least we're told she is. But could he sort of maybe use that support to sort of, maybe back her? Maybe that was the whole point. Maybe, okay, Kemi, you need to raise your profile. So I'm going to back you and run you in this campaign, not to win, but just to get you a bigger, high profile name. It's entirely possible when you see this. And I'm sort of looking at it and maybe going, is dot connecting? But yeah, Michael Gove may have been playing a long game in order to become Prime Minister after obviously he got, well, stabbed in the back by Johnson last time. It could go very interesting indeed, and things are brewing certainly in the background. They are definitely brewing, that's for one thing. But as always, guys, let me know what you think down below. And of course, as always, do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button on your way out. And of course, do remember to ring the bell as well. And of course, we'll see you all next time.